When someone tells you that you're average, the word doesn't hit all at once. It seeps in, like cold air through a cracked window, quiet, steady, hard to ignore. I met Claire 3 years ago at a marketing conference in Chicago. She was the kind of woman who filled a room without trying. Sharp laugh, expensive perfume, quick with opinions about everything. I was a junior account manager back then, shy, polite, still learning how to breathe in boardrooms. For a while, we balanced each other. She made me louder. I made her softer. But as her career accelerated, so did her contempt for stillness. She wanted rooftop parties, louder friends, flashier circles. I was still packing lunch from home and saving receipts. One evening, we were getting ready for a gala. Her firm had just landed a major luxury client. I remember standing behind her while she adjusted her dress in the mirror. She looked at my reflection and said, half smiling, "You know, if you just tried a little harder, new wardrobe, better hairline, you could actually look successful." I laughed awkwardly. "Guess I'll start with the hair," I said, tugging at the thin spot I'd been trying to hide. She turned, eyes glinting. "You can fix your hair, Mark," she said softly, "but you'll never fix being average." It was such a clean slice of cruelty that I didn't even bleed right away. I just nodded, pretending it was witty banter. But when she walked away to answer a call, I caught my own reflection. Small, plain, unfinished. And for the first time, I believed her. We broke up 2 months later. She said she needed someone who reflected her future. I said nothing. I packed her leftover skincare bottles into a box, set it by her door, and let silence do the talking. For a while, her words echoed everywhere. In the mirror, in job interviews, in the way baristas called the names of people ordering after me. I started working longer hours, enrolled in a night MBA program, and joined a mentorship initiative just to fill the quiet she'd left. The hair comment stuck too. I saved and bought a subtle, custom toupee. Nothing flashy, just enough to stop people from glancing twice. It helped me look the part while I learned to be it. Every raise, every late-night study session, every small win was a brick on the wall I was building between who I was and who she thought I'd stay. 2 years can change a person in small, invisible ways. I traded second-hand suits for tailored ones, learned to listen more than I spoke, and realized that quiet doesn't mean weak. It means focused. Then one Tuesday morning, I opened my email and saw her name in the subject line. Candidate Claire Sutton, Senior Marketing Strategist Interview. For a moment, I thought it was some cosmic prank. But there it was. The same woman who'd once told me I was average, now applying for a position at the company I'd joined 6 months earlier as Director of Brand Strategy. I leaned back in my chair and laughed under my breath. Life apparently had a wicked sense of humor. The hiring team had already shortlisted her. Her resume was impressive. Global campaigns, luxury clients, glowing references. On paper, she was perfect. On the calendar invite, my name appeared automatically beside Panel Interview Lead. I stared at it for a long time, then whispered to myself, "Let's see if Average remembers me." The morning of the interview, I arrived early. The office was quiet, just the hum of the espresso machine and the faint clack of keyboards from the early risers. I opened the blinds to let in the pale light and straightened the chairs around the table. Small, ordinary details. But inside, every motion felt deliberate, like setting a stage. I had imagined this moment before, not the revenge exactly, but the meeting, the quiet satisfaction of being on the other side of the glass. 2 years ago, I was the one applying for jobs like this, walking in with hope tucked under my arm like a resume. Now I was the man evaluating others. The HR coordinator, Dana, peeked in. "She's here," she said softly. "She looks nervous." "Let's bring her in," I replied, my tone steady. Claire walked in wearing a dark navy suit, the same confidence in her stride, but something behind it had dulled. Maybe time, maybe consequence. Her hair was shorter now, her expression careful. "Good morning," she said, voice professional but cautious. Then her eyes landed on me. For a moment, the air in the room shifted. Her practiced smile froze, the way ice cracks under sudden heat. "Mark?" she whispered. I nodded. "Ms. Sutton," I said evenly, motioning to the chair opposite mine. "Please have a seat." Dana and another panel member smiled politely, oblivious to the tension threading through the air. Claire's hand trembled slightly as she set her portfolio down. The interview began. Dana asked the first question about campaign metrics, then Tom followed with something about client retention. Claire answered smoothly at first, relying on muscle memory, but every few sentences, her eyes flicked back to me, searching for warmth, for recognition, for anything. I gave her none. When it was my turn, I kept my tone calm. "Tell me, Claire," I began, "what's your biggest professional weakness?" Her mouth twitched. The question was standard, but coming from me, it landed heavier. She hesitated, then said, "I used to think success was about appearances. Now I know it's about consistency." "That's an interesting answer," I said. "And what changed your mind?" She exhaled slowly. "Life," she said simply. For the first time, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The rest of the interview continued like a well-rehearsed play. Polite, professional, impersonal. When it ended, I thanked her and stood to shake her hand. She lingered for a moment longer than necessary. "It's good to see you again," she said quietly. "You too," I replied. "Take care, Miss Sutton." As soon as she left the room, Dana grinned. "Wow, she's impressive. You know her?" I looked at the door, still slightly ajar. "We met once," I said. That afternoon, I reviewed her application alone. Her qualifications were solid, but the company had others. Candidates who hadn't used someone as a stepping stone on their way up. Still, I didn't reject her outright. I forwarded her profile to the HR board with a single note. Strong candidate. Proceed with final review. And then, for reasons I couldn't name, I deleted her number from my phone. That night, as I walked home, the city lights shimmered off wet pavement. I caught my reflection in a shop window. Sharp suit, bare scalp under soft streetlight. For the first time, I didn't see what was missing. I saw what remained. A week later, I got an email from HR. Subject, hiring update, Claire Sutton. Decision, position offered to another candidate. I stared at the message, then leaned back and smiled. Not satisfaction, just closure. That evening, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Mark?" Her voice. I didn't say anything. I heard, "I didn't get it." A pause. "You could have said something, maybe told them I'd be a good fit." I let the silence breathe between us. Finally, I said, "You were right once, Claire. You said I could fix my hair, but not being average." I paused, voice steady. "Turns out you were half right." And then I hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. But karma, it seems, wasn't finished yet. Because 2 days later, she showed up in the company lobby again. Not for an interview this time, but for something I never expected. She appeared in the lobby on a Friday morning just as I was heading out for a client presentation. The security guard's voice came over the intercom, steady but uncertain. "Mr. Hall, there's someone asking for you. Says it's personal." I almost told him to send her away, but curiosity, or maybe unfinished business, made me pause. "Tell her to wait," I said quietly. When I stepped into the lobby, Claire was standing by the glass wall, clutching a folder to her chest. The confidence that once defined her had drained away. Her hair was tied back, her blazer too big on her now. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize her. She smiled faintly when she saw me. "I owe you an apology." I nodded toward a side room. "Let's talk inside." She followed me silently. The conference room smelled faintly of coffee and whiteboard markers. Neutral ground for messy emotions. She sat down, folded her hands, and exhaled. "You didn't have to be cruel," she said softly. I leaned back in my chair. I wasn't. "You could have told HR to hire me," she pressed. "You had that power." I looked at her steadily. "I also had the power not to." Her eyes filled with something between anger and shame. "You really hate me that much?" I shook my head. "No, hate takes energy. You took enough of that already." Silence hung in the air. For the first time, she didn't look like the woman who'd once towered over me at that gala. She looked small, human. She took a breath, voice trembling. After we broke up, I thought I'd moved on. But nothing ever felt real again. Every job, every relationship, it all fell apart. I kept wondering if it was karma. I didn't answer. Then she reached into her folder and slid a printed resume across the table. I know the position's gone, I need a reference for another opportunity. You know my work ethic. I looked down at the paper. Her achievements were still impressive, but the confidence between the lines was gone. You don't need my reference, I said. You need a reset. She gave a brittle laugh. You sound like a therapist. Maybe I had to become one, I said quietly. You told me once I was average. You were right. Back then I was, because I kept trying to meet everyone else's standards instead of my own. She swallowed hard. I was cruel to you, Mark. I was scared of mediocrity and in myself. You were steady, predictable. I mistook that for weakness. I met her eyes. And now? Now I know it's strength, she said. You never tried to outshine me? You just stayed grounded while I burned everything down. I wanted to believe her. Maybe part of me did. I signed the reference form without saying much. Good luck, Claire. She stood slowly, blinking back tears. You really changed. No, I said. I just stopped pretending I had to prove something. As she turned to leave, she paused by the door. You know, she said quietly, for what it's worth, I always hated that you believed me that night. I frowned. What night? When I said you'd never fix being average? I didn't mean it. She smiled sadly. I just wanted to hurt you before you had the chance to hurt me. And then she walked away. For a while, I just sat there, staring at the empty chair across from me. The air felt heavy, not with anger, but with understanding. That afternoon, I forwarded her signed reference to HR. It wasn't forgiveness, exactly, but it was peace. A week later, I received a LinkedIn notification. Claire Sutton started a new position at Northgate Media. I smiled faintly. Maybe she'd finally found what she was chasing. That night, I went out for dinner with some colleagues. We laughed, swapped stories, shared plans for the future. For once, I didn't think about the past at all. Until the next morning, when an email from Northgate Media appeared in my inbox, subject line, consultation request, brand audit proposal. They wanted to partner with us, and guess whose name was listed as their point of contact? I stared at the email for a long moment, unsure whether to laugh or sigh. Life had a sense of humor sharper than any insult. The partnership proposal was legitimate, a mid-sized campaign that would bring both firms visibility. Still, the irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who once dismissed me as average was now the liaison requesting my approval. I forwarded the email to my assistant with a brief note. Set up a meeting next week. Let's see what they're offering. When the day arrived, I made a point of treating it like any other business appointment. Crisp suit, notes ready, neutral tone. But under that calm, something quieter pulsed. Not revenge exactly, just awareness. The kind you earn when life finally circles back to the start. The door opened. Claire walked in with a younger colleague and a practiced smile. Mark, she said, extending her hand. It's good to see you again. Likewise, I said, shaking it. Let's get started. We went through slides, budgets, forecasts. She spoke confidently, avoiding eye contact when she could. I could tell she'd prepared every word, every breath. At one point, her voice faltered just slightly when she had to say my name in a sentence. When the presentation ended, her colleague excused herself to take a call, leaving us alone in the glass-walled room. Claire looked down at her notes, then at me. You'll approve it? I folded my hands. It's a strong proposal, I said. But I need to review the numbers first. She nodded, then whispered, I wasn't sure if you'd even agree to meet. I try not to let personal history interfere with business, I replied. That's what I admire about you, she said quietly. You always had discipline, even when I didn't. I gave a small smile. Experience teaches what ego hides. For a moment, we just sat there, the hum of the air conditioner filling the space between us. Then she said, You know I've replayed that night 1,000 times. The one where I called you average. If I could take it back, I would. I leaned back, studying her face. She wasn't the same woman who had mocked my ambition. The world had humbled her. You don't need to, I said softly. You taught me something. Pain has a purpose, if you let it. She exhaled, relief and regret tangled together. So you forgive me? I don't need to forgive you, I said. I just stopped needing your validation. She nodded slowly. You really did fix your hair, she said, half smiling, half tearful. I touched my scalp, now shaved clean. Didn't have to, I said. Turns out what needed fixing wasn't on my head. When the meeting ended, I walked her to the elevator. The doors opened and she stepped inside. Just before they closed, she said, You became everything I pretended to be. And then she was gone. I stood there for a while, watching my reflection in the polished metal doors. No toupee, no insecurities, no ghosts left to chase. Just me. The man she once called average, now standing in a life I'd built from quiet persistence. A week later, I approved the partnership. Not out of pettiness, but because it was the right decision for the company. That's what real success looks like, when peace matters more than payback. Months passed. The project flourished. I saw her name occasionally in email threads, always professional, always polite. No more apologies. No more tension. Just two people who had finally learned their lesson in different ways. Then, one evening, after wrapping a long day, I received a handwritten note on my desk. It wasn't signed, but I didn't need to guess. The handwriting was familiar, elegant, steady. Thank you for being kinder than I deserved. You didn't just fix your hair, Mark. You fixed the way I see people. I hope you stay that way. Unshakable. I folded the note carefully, placed it in my drawer, and turned off the lights. The city outside glowed in soft amber, windows reflecting the lives of 1,000 strangers chasing their own peace. As I walked out, I caught my reflection in the lobby glass. Confident, content, quietly proud. Sometimes life doesn't shout when it pays you back, it whispers. And in that whisper, I finally heard it, the sound of being enough.